Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. It is a cold, snowy day here in Colorado, and I'm going to be in the garage, getting more cold, but doing a little more body work on the Blazer. Alright, inside the garage, it's about 30 degrees in here. I was running the propane heater, but I was getting warm and then I turned it off and then it got cold. Anyway, working on the passenger side. You probably saw my first 3 videos on the driver side. That covers basically everything inside and then doing it. But this time I've got a little more to do. Not only do I have that, but there was a section of the inner bed wall that is rotted out by the filler neck. I also pulled the gas tank while I'm doing this. And so I'm also going to patch the floor because the floor is pretty bad. But before I do the floor, we're going to finish up this wheel arch. And I wanted to show you a little bit of a technique that I didn't do before. Alright, so I've got the inner welded in and this guy mocked up. What I did do is I've already cut out about here of the old wheel arch just so I can get the inner welded in and done up. So now I've laid this against it. I've measured to my marks. I'm a 16 and an eighth there, 16 and an eighth there, and 17 and an eighth from here to the door jamb, which is exactly what it was on the driver's side. So symmetry. But one of the big things I learned from a good body guy is basically I learned it too late on the other one, which is to not have corners. So last time I just cut and went at it, but this time I went with a little bit more planning. Big radiuses like this are going to keep the heat down and keep the warping down, because when you have 2 corners and you weld to that corner is a hot spot, and then it does weird wobbly stuff. So kept pretty sweeping corners to start out with. The next thing I'm going to do is, this is fit up pretty much perfect, lapped over this skin. So what I'm going to do is take a carbide scribe and I'm going to mark all around this piece. And then that's going to be the line that I cut at. All right. Another trick you can do is hit this with a little bit of spray paint. What that'll do is actually mask it off a little bit and then give you a even easier to see line. So, but it's way too cold to do that here, so I'm just going to take a Sharpie and trace it. I do have my good mark with the scribe, but this is going to just be a little easier to see. And it's so cold that even the Sharpie doesn't want to work. Alright, and now that I've got this off, you can see where my old line was, and then this is the new one. And then right in here we've got the new inner wheel well, and I actually had to cut the old body out and just stitch weld the entire thing, because there was a lot of cancer that went up a little bit higher. And then I was going to get weld nuts, but I couldn't find the correct ones, so I've got these are just 5/16 coarse thread square nuts, and I think they look pretty good and a lot closer to the factory stuff. So yeah, now I'm just going to use this line as a reference, and we are going to trim it away, and then we'll hold this guy back up with both clamps down here and some butt weld clamps around the seam. So I've got the wheel arch cut out, and then the new one lined up with some butt clamps. My gap is a little bit bigger than I would have liked, but MIG welders are good at filling gaps. Got it measured from here to there is what it should be, 16 1/8. So yeah, all I gotta do is a little bit more massaging and we'll start welding it in. So I've got it tacked in, got the clamps removed. Now all I got to do is just join those tacks together. And one tip while you're doing this, basically I was going along ungloved, bare fingers, feeling this, and then taking a tiny screwdriver or what have you, and then prying it one way or the other, just to make sure everything lines up perfectly. So you really don't want the panels to be too far off. You want them as close as you can. That way when you grind it down, you're not removing any thickness, you're just taking away the tack. So now I'm just going to do a bunch of tacks next to these tacks. So one there, there, kind of skipping around until this is all one uniform piece. Alright, all the welding should be done. Now all I've got to do is just grind it out and maybe fix some holes if I find any. We got her all welded up and smoothed down. Now it's just time for a little bit of filler and then a little bit of paint. But you guys have seen that already with the other videos. So now we're going to turn our attention to the floor. So I've got some rot there and there. I filled that in. So now what we got to do is basically cut this section out. And I just got my LMC order in, and we got a couple pieces of floor. I'm not going to need all of that piece, just a little bit. And then got all the other bits. So that guy to cover the filler, and then some stuff for the tailgate, and some hood hinges because I wanted to pad out the order. Then once we do that, we're going to tackle this side, which is a little bit worse. Obviously you can see that's gone into the cross member, so I've got to fix the cross member. But yeah, let's get to this guy. We're going to basically mark this out and cut out the section. I'm going to go from about right here over and up to about there. That's all we're really going to need. Alright, so we got this all peeled out over there. A little bit of prying and copious amounts of chiseling with the air hammer. So we've got our big open hole now that we can fill. I did unfortunately find that this cross member does have some damage to it. There was a tiny hole right here, and then I just kind of poked it with the pokey stabby guy, and looks like I found a few more holes. So what we're going to do with that is pretty much just patch over it. What I'm going to do is cut this out strategically. So what I'm going to do is cut this out strategically, and then I'm just going to weld the plate over the top. I could try to match everything, but it really doesn't matter, and I don't need to butt weld it. So I've got room under the floor, and this is caved in. So I'm just going to lay a piece on top and then just stitch it in and go from there. The other thing I've got going on is that wheel tub has also seen better days. It's also got a few other bad spots on it, so my plan is actually to replace that. So I might fix this temporarily. I might just sandwich something in there, or I might fix it for real. But more than likely, I'm going to peel this off. Get a new one, maybe a good used one from a junkyard, and bolt it in, because this guy just bolts on. The worst part about it is the seam sealer, but I think we'll be okay. All right, so that's about what we're looking for. There's only one big thing with this. So I'm kind of half-assing this and not doing it quite right. But this spot is supposed to slip underneath this post. And I'm really not taking the bed apart. So I am just going to notch this right here. It should be totally fine. I'm going to fill that with seam sealer. It's going to be welded on this lip, so we should be good. I did also notice there are a few small dents. I've got a little dent right there, and this corner is folded down a little bit. That's pretty much to be expected. Anytime you're doing a replacement of the bed, these panels, they're pretty delicate, so they're going to get damaged in shipping. One other thing I'm noticing now that I really don't like is the ends right here. The whole reason I bought this panel was for these, and you'll notice the factory one rolls up to the edge. This stops shy of that. So I don't know how I feel about that. I'm going to just still continue how I was, and I'm going to just put that in, but I guess I might end up using the rest of this because I don't want some to be different lengths. Yeah, so that's how it's going, and I'm just going to keep plugging away. Alright, so I did a little more thinking, and I am just going to let it ride, and I'm going to continue doing this the way that I was planning on, which is just replacing this section, and I'll have the mismatched bottoms. The reason that's not a big deal is that there is a sill plate that covers this. I don't have it, at least not anymore, so I'm going to need to find one, or make one. So I'm going to do that, and that's going to cover all this, and we're not going to worry about it, or at least I'm not. So basically what we got is we got this guy lined up, and I am going to trace it. Use a little scribe. And so that's going to be my patch. And for starters, I'm going to just cut it a little bit wider. That way I've got some extra wiggle room. And I'm going to trim it as I fit it up. So yeah. And before I do that, I'm going to finish chipping off the rest of that seam sealer off of the wheel tub. Alright, just test fit the panel to see how it fits. I got the holes drilled out so it's actually screwed in to the side and into the wheel well right there. It's pretty good. I need to do a little bit of trimming. I just traced the underside with my little scribe. So now I'm going to pull it off and we're going to sand it down, grind it down to fit that mark, put it back in, and we can weld it in. Alright, before I put that floor panel in, we're going to turn our attention to beefing up that cross member. So what I decided on was to take a piece of sheet metal that was larger than the hole I cut out, and then held it up with a magnet, welded it in a few spots, and then just welded it completely in. Did that for this guy and this guy. I did that off camera because I was just kind of figuring stuff out. But now I'm going to reinforce this a little bit more. I've got another two pieces that I cut. I painted all this with weld-through primer. I'm going to put the weld-through primer side down on both of these. And what we're going to do is just now weld that in. So that way this whole section where I've replaced is double thick and should hopefully be stronger than original, and I don't have to worry about it because I really don't want to have to replace that cross member. That's going to be a bad day. So we're patching it for now. So I'm going to do that on this side, then we'll tackle the other. Alright, got them welded in. Just got to grind it down, and then we'll hit it with some more weld-through primer. That way we can seal that up and keep it protected once the floor panel goes on. Alright, got the primer on. Now let's fit this guy in. Now I'm going to bolt it down, and then that should draw it this way, and I should have a nice seam to weld right there. Alright, we've got it fitting in. We're nice and flush, so time to weld that, and then we're going to plug weld that. The one thing is this part actually sits a little high. So, and if you look at it, the factory panel also sits kind of high, and all these spot welds are kind of sunken down. So I'm going to weld this in, then I'm going to hit that with like a punch or a picking hammer, and so it dips down, and then we're going to plug weld that, just so that everything's still nice and level, because we're trying to keep this bit pretty even. I should probably clean off the undercoating before I do this. So I'm going to do that before and then stitch the rest of this in. Alright, left side got the same treatment, and I did the same thing, cut a patch panel out. The patch panel actually goes like from here to like way over there, and I only needed this much, so yeah, that's 80 bucks well spent. Anyway, just gonna, well, weld it in. Oh, and if you're wondering why it's so spattery, don't break the tip off of your expensive weld-through primer. Pretty much immediately, I dropped that guy. Didn't realize it until I went to go use it, and the cap was completely broken. And I don't have another one. I tried using the cap from a different can of paint, but didn't fit. So I've just been like holding my finger over the little stalk and letting it spray out. So it's been pretty messy, but it does get the job done. So I'm going to keep using it until that can is empty. Got the left side in. I ended up having to add an extra patch right here because this part I thought was pretty good, but I guess it was a little too rusty because every time I tried to weld on it, it was just blowing through. So now we can clean this up, hit it with some normal primer, then we'll seam seal all of that, and hit it with some bed liner, and then start doing our finished interior with some carpet. But that's going to take a while, so I think we're going to call it for today. Floor's patched, and the truck is good to go until I put the gas tank back in. So that's going to be it for today, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Helps if you connect the ground.